Hey, VC and Beatles fans, how's everybody doing? Hopefully, all you Beatles fans have had an opportunity to watch all three parts of the Get Back special. And as you know, it's just fantastic. I was going to do a review of part 2 and part 3, but basically, it is fantastic. It is like being a fly on the wall. You get to observe them in the studio doing take after take of all the familiar songs from the Let It Be album. You get to see all their side discussions, all the joking that went on, all the camaraderie, all the arguments and things that they were having, the indecision about what they were going to do. Was it going to be a live performance, a TV show, a movie? But if you've seen it, it is just wonderful. I love the fact that they have the entirety of the rooftop performance. I think that's great. But it exceeded my expectations, not only quality, but also time-wise. I thought it was only going to be 6 hours long. Ended up being almost 8 hours long, which for a Beatles fan, that is just heaven. So what I wanted to do this video on is, you've seen the Get Back special, you've seen the rooftop performance, and then as the credits are rolling, you see the final day, January 31st, where they're putting the finishing touches on Two of Us, Long and Winding Road, and Let It Be, and the Apple Studios, their final day working on the Get Back sessions. Although technically the early part of January 1970, George, Ringo, and Paul actually re-recorded I Me Mine for release on the eventual Let It Be soundtrack album. But nonetheless, at the end of the movie, what happened then? Because I think people who are not necessarily familiar with the Beatles story might not understand kind of what happened after the rooftop concert, after the Beatles scattered after that final day of recording on January 31st. So what happened next? Did they break up? No, they didn't break up right away. Some documentaries might lead you to believe, or you might be led to believe from different things that you've heard, or just whatever, your impression was that the Beatles broke up after the rooftop performance and the Let It Be project, but that's not true. But what did happen? So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to kind of go over what happened from February 1st until they began work on the Abbey Road album in the spring of 1969. So basically on February 3rd, Ringo, as they talked about in the movie, he started filming the Magic Christian movie with Peter Sellers. It was nice to see Peter Sellers in the Get Back movie as well. So he started filming that project. On February 7th, George entered University College Hospital to have his tonsils removed. Interesting. On February 8th, Alan Klein, the eventual business manager of the Beatles, formally joined Apple as a financial advisor to the Beatles, and some would say this accelerated the breakup of the Beatles because, of course, there was a disagreement. Paul wanted his in-laws, the Eastmans, to manage the Beatles, and John, as you could see in the Get Back documentary, he was really taken with Alan Klein. You can see the scene where he and George are talking about Alan Klein, and John is saying how wonderful he thinks Alan Klein is, and he can't wait for George to meet Alan Klein. So anyway, February 8th, very shortly afterwards, John has already brought him into Apple to start managing the Beatles' financial affairs. On February 22nd, the Beatles reconvened, this time at Trident Studios, and they began work on John's song, I Want You, which would eventually appear, of course, at the end of side 1 on Abbey Road. And on February 23rd, they also had a recording session to do further work on I Want You. On February 25th, George, on his birthday, recorded 3 demos at Abbey Road Studios. He records a demo for Old Brown Shoe, Something, which would appear on the Abbey Road album, and All Things Must Pass, which you saw him doing some rehearsals of that song with the Beatles in the Get Back documentary. He would do a demo of that at Abbey Road. And again, that was on February 25th. On March 12th, Linda and Paul got married. On March 20th, John and Yoko got married in Gibraltar. So very shortly after Paul and Linda got married, John and Yoko tied the knot. And on March 25th through March 31st, John and Yoko held their first formal bed-in at the Amsterdam Hilton. And as I go through some of these dates, it's going to sound like lyrics from Ballad of John and Yoko, but that's exactly, they were chronicling pretty much their spring, getting married and doing bed-ins and things like that. On April 11th, the Get Back, Don't Let Me Down single was released. On April 14th, John and Paul got together and they recorded the Ballad of John and Yoko at Abbey Road Studios. Ringo was unavailable because he was filming The Magic Christian, and George was otherwise indisposed and not available. So John and Paul, they met at, I think it was John's house, went over the song, and then they drove over to Abbey Road Studios and actually recorded it at breakneck speed because John was so excited about the track and had to get it recorded. He couldn't wait for George and Ringo to be available. On April 16th, the Beatles convened, all four Beatles convened at Abbey Road Studios to record George's composition, Old Brown Shoe, which would be the B-side to Ballad of John and Yoko. And they finished recording Old Brown Shoe on April 18th and also did some further work on John's I Want You song. On April 20th, the Beatles began recording Oh Darling and Octopus's Garden for the Abbey Road album. That was done at Abbey Road Studios. And on April 30th, they added some guitar to an existing recording of Let It Be that would eventually be released in early 1970 as a single. And they also added vocals and overdubs to what was basically an instrumental track up to this point, the song You Know My Name, Look Up the Number, which had Brian Jones on saxophone. That existed purely as an instrumental. It was recorded in 1967, and then John revisited the tapes in 1969, and he pulled Paul in, and they recorded the vocals and also some additional overdubs. So that's pretty much the story up to the point where the Beatles began in earnest in May of 1969, starting to record the Abbey Road album. So basically that is the story, kind of that gap, that intervening period between the end of the Get Back sessions and the beginning of the Abbey Road session. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you enjoyed the Get Back documentary. I can't see how you couldn't, although it is a bit long. I understand that. So anyway, hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great weekend. And take care.